This is the unfiltered federal courtroom testimony from the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. In a crowded Manhattan courtroom, cracks finally began to form around one of hip-hop's most influential figures. But it wasn't because of a celebrity statement or another leaked video, it was because of a man the public had barely heard of until now, Gene Deal. Diddy's former bodyguard, Deal has been speaking out for years, largely ignored. Now, the court is listening. His long-dismissed warnings have gained weight as disturbing footage and witness statements emerge, aligning with his stories in haunting detail. On the seventh day of the trial, insiders reported that jurors visibly paled when one of Deal's claims was confirmed by video evidence. Diddy's hands shook, he appeared shattered. What happens when the man once hired to protect you becomes the one who brings your empire down? This isn't just a testimony, it might be the exact moment Diddy's defense fell apart. Gene Deal's revelations are beginning to shift the entire narrative. For years, he shared his story, but few took him seriously. As Diddy's bodyguard during the height of Bad Boy Records, Deal witnessed both the public image and the behind-the-scenes turmoil. In interviews and podcast appearances, he painted a troubling picture behind the glitz, violent episodes, manipulation, constant surveillance, and disturbing parties involving celebrities and underage guests. Until now, many dismissed his claims as spite or a grab for attention. But in the midst of a federal sex trafficking trial, these same accounts are now being validated in a court of law. Deal described Diddy's empire as being run more like a military machine than a record label. Staff had defined roles, secrets were tightly controlled, and any notion of privacy was an illusion. He claims Diddy maintained dominance over everyone, from assistants to artists, using fear, loyalty, or drugs. Deal said he witnessed physical altercations between Diddy and Kim Porter, the late mother of some of Diddy's children. "I saw things I'll never forget," he once admitted. "And I kept my mouth shut for too long." Today, those memories are being echoed in court. Testimonies from witnesses describe similar settings: phones confiscated, private rooms, intoxicated attendees, and coercion. When Officer Israel Flores took the stand and testified that in 2016, Cassie had a black eye and was trying to flee from Diddy, just as Deal had described years earlier, it changed everything. These were no longer isolated claims. They became a pattern. Prosecutors are now building a case that Diddy didn't just lose control once, he built a system designed to ensure he always remained in control. And Gene Deal was there to witness it unfold. What's now undeniably clear is that Deal's accounts weren't just believable, they may have been true all along. Unlike most celebrity scandals that fall apart over a single explosive piece of evidence, this one could unravel because of a man with no spotlight and nothing to gain. Gene Deal wasn't some distant observer, he was by Diddy's side for years. And when he talks, it isn't gossip, it's direct experience. Legal analysts covering the case say the jury may be forced to take his statements seriously, not just because they're shocking, but because they're consistent. In a recent interview, Deal said something that left many chilled: "You protect a man's body for years, but you can't protect his soul." He confessed to feeling complicit in the silence that allowed Diddy's actions to go unchecked. When Deal described the notorious freak-offs, private events where Diddy allegedly coerced both women and men into sexual acts while secretly filming the encounters, he insisted it wasn't just about gratification. It was about power. According to Deal, the cameras were always rolling. If anyone ever betrayed Diddy, he had the footage to ruin them. These disturbing details now mirror the allegations made by Cassie Ventura, a federal lawsuit from Lil Rod, and other accusers, many of whom mention NDAs, secret recordings, and intimidation. These parallels make Deal's testimony harder to dismiss. Deal also made unsettling claims about Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, suggesting she may have played a role in shaping some of his darkest behaviors. Gann said the household didn't just allow control, it taught it. He recalled instances where Janice allegedly operated a modeling agency that was, in reality, a front for a high-end brothel. While the court has not verified these specific claims, prosecutors appear to be weaving a broader narrative: Diddy's conduct wasn't accidental. It was learned, perfected, and enforced. During a recent trial session, a courtroom observer noted that several jurors reacted visibly when a witness's account echoed Gene's earlier interviews. When one of Deal's previously dismissed claims was brought up in court documents, Diddy reportedly muttered something under his breath and asked for a break, admitting he was nervous. It was the first sign of vulnerability from someone who had maintained an unshaken demeanor. If Deal testifies, as prosecution sources strongly suggest, he won't just be another witness. He'll be the first to publicly validate the world Diddy allegedly built, finally exposed by someone close enough to know the truth. Diddy's legal team is now struggling to maintain control of the courtroom narrative. They seem prepared for emotional ex-partners or inconsistent testimonies, not a calm, deliberate former bodyguard with a sharp memory and nothing to lose. Deal has gone on record saying he warned Diddy years ago to change course, especially after Cassie ended their relationship and began hinting at legal action. He claims he witnessed Diddy ignore legal advice, reject settlements, and provoke escalating conflicts. That same behavior is playing out now. Prosecutors have revealed that Diddy turned down several plea deals earlier this year. Instead of securing an agreement that might reduce his potential prison time, he reportedly chose to fight every charge. Why? According to Deal, Diddy believed he was untouchable. But that confidence appears to be crumbling. On the sixth day of the trial, sources describe Diddy as pale, thinner than usual, and visibly shaken. His hands trembled during cross-examinations, and at one point, he asked the judge for a break, saying, "Excuse me, I'm a little nervous." This is the same man who once branded himself a savage and partied with billionaires, now seemingly desperate as the pressure mounts. Deal's account is also shedding light on what prosecutors describe as enterprise-level criminal activity. He stated plainly, this wasn't a man spiraling. This was a man orchestrating, working with drug dealers, event coordinators, lawyers, and security to keep a vast system intact. Prosecutors are beginning to treat these claims not as wild stories but as part of a deliberate and illegal structure. Deal further alleged that he saw Diddy use his influence to silence staff, pay off victims, and neutralize threats, sometimes with money, sometimes with fear. This is exactly the type of organized pattern needed to establish racketeering charges, which can lead to major federal sentences. As the trial continues, Diddy's defense team is scrambling to undermine Deal's credibility. But with each day he isn't called to testify, more of the evidence seems to support his version of events. Whether or not Deal takes the stand, he has already altered the course of this trial. For Diddy, that shift may be the most threatening development yet. Deal's accounts do more than support the prosecution's case, they're changing how both the public and the jury interpret the abuse allegations. For years, rumors of Diddy's alleged violent behavior and manipulation lived mostly on gossip blogs and in anonymous tips. But now, Deal is recounting detailed incidents that align with police reports and sworn testimony, making it harder for the jury to dismiss them. Deal has spoken in interviews dating back nearly 10 years about a specific incident involving Kim Porter, Diddy's former partner and the mother of 3 of his children. He claimed that Porter once had to defend herself by slashing Diddy's wrist with a broken object after a heated argument. At the time, many brushed off the story as an exaggeration. But during the trial, testimony emerged confirming that Porter was seen at Cedars-Sinai Hospital shortly after a domestic incident. Though she never publicly addressed it, the match between Deal's timeline and that ER visit has given his account new credibility. He also vividly described the atmosphere at the now notorious Freakoff's alleged drug-fueled sex parties at Diddy's mansion. According to Deal, these events were far from spontaneous. Everything was orchestrated, phones were confiscated, lighting was carefully arranged, and guests were directed on what to wear and where to go. This mirrors testimony from Cassie Ventura and other women, who said they were invited to participate in sexual acts without clear consent. Diddy reportedly called these gatherings experiences and was said to re-watch recordings of them, something Deal claims to have seen firsthand. Cassie acknowledged that during the early stages of her relationship with Diddy, she was involved in organizing some of these parties, arranging for other women, and occasionally supplying drugs. She explained this as part of the psychological manipulation she endured. Again, Deal's earlier interviews support this. He stated that the women often didn't even realize they were being abused, because Diddy made them feel indebted to him. This reframing, from chaotic outbursts to a deliberate pattern of psychological control, may be the most damaging part of Deal's testimony. It suggests that Diddy wasn't simply reacting in anger, but rather constructing situations where people felt powerless or impaired, unable to refuse. In a courtroom, that crosses the line from immoral to criminal. Deal, once the enforcer behind the scenes of the bad boy empire, had access few others did. While the public saw the glamour, he witnessed what happened behind the velvet ropes, and now, that knowledge is surfacing as crucial testimony. On various podcasts, Deal portrayed Bad Boy not just as a record label, but as a kind of cult-like lifestyle where loyalty was maintained through fear and humiliation, and where indulgence in drugs, sex, and violence was the norm. He described the company's headquarters as a control center, complete with surveillance systems, not just to guard against outsiders, but to watch the people inside. Employees, partners, even romantic interests were monitored. Everybody was watching everybody, Deal said in a 2022 interview. Nobody knew who the camera was really on. This becomes especially significant now that prosecutors have introduced photos and metadata from surveillance cameras inside one of Diddy's New York homes, images that seem to show guests being taken to private rooms. Perhaps the most chilling detail in Deal's recollections is what he refers to as the grooming protocol. He described how new hires or collaborators, especially women, were often subjected to a process meant to test their limits. They would be flown out, given drugs, and then observed to see how they behaved on camera. Those who resisted were quickly cut off, while those who went along were invited to more parties and, in some cases, became romantically involved with Diddy. Being close to the operation, Deal also witnessed how potential risks were silenced. He recounted one instance where a woman who tried to expose a drug-related incident involving a young artist was soon sent to Paris with a non-disclosure agreement and a cash payment. Deal explained, "It's a well-oiled machine. It's not chaos, it's structure disguised as chaos." Legal experts say this distinction is crucial for prosecutors, helping them present the alleged misconduct as part of a coordinated enterprise rather than reckless, isolated actions. If Deal testifies, his account could connect a pattern of allegations spanning decades. He knows where the cameras were placed, when security was told to look away, and how the entire system protected itself while trading in secrets and silence. Diddy has long cultivated a powerful image: fur coats, champagne, private jets, and exclusive all-white parties in the Hamptons. He wasn't just a music mogul, he represented complete control. But that image is now unraveling in court, and no one has exposed it more sharply than Deal. On the 6th day of the trial, reporters noticed a dramatic change in Diddy's appearance. The once commanding figure now looked gaunt, pale, and worn down. A journalist from the Breakfast Club remarked, "It's like he aged 5 years in 5 days." According to Deal, Diddy's greatest fear wasn't going to jail, it was becoming irrelevant. He could handle prison, but the idea of not being seen was unbearable to him. Now, he finds himself the focus of a trial that's dismantling the very persona he spent his life constructing. The prosecution is not only presenting evidence but also working to deconstruct the myth surrounding him. One by one, witnesses are casting him as paranoid, obsessive, and erratic. Former employees described how Diddy demanded control over everything, from party playlists to the amount of drugs given to guests. He wasn't just a host, according to one witness, he orchestrated every detail. This directly contradicts the defense's attempt to portray him as a misunderstood creative. That portrayal faltered especially after a disturbing audio clip was played in court, allegedly capturing Diddy instructing someone to send a woman into a private room. He visibly flinched. When asked by the judge if he needed a break, he declined, but his anxious glances toward his lawyers told another story. Minutes later, he asked to use the restroom and whispered, "I'm shaking." Jurors have reportedly noticed these physical reactions. Experts in body language say his visible distress, his fidgeting, unusual silence, and pale complexion may be swaying the jury more than any witness. He no longer looks like a confident mogul under pressure. He looks like someone watching his empire crumble. For years, Diddy maintained an air of invincibility, but in the stark environment of a federal courtroom, that has transformed into raw vulnerability. With Deal's account reinforcing the evidence, the persona once seen as bold now comes across as desperate. The jury sees it. The public sees it. And most importantly, Diddy sees it. As the prosecution builds a stronger case, his defense team is running out of options. Their original approach, painting Cassie Ventura and other accusers as opportunists or bitter ex-partners, is falling apart. Testimonies from former insiders like Gandil are shifting the narrative. What was once dismissed as personal grudges or exaggerated stories is now being confirmed by someone who spent years within Diddy's inner circle. The defense is clearly struggling to keep pace. In one chaotic courtroom exchange, Diddy's legal team tried to undermine Cassie by presenting old text messages from 2009 that included flirtatious and explicit content. "You were enjoying the freak-offs," a defense attorney said. "You initiated some of them." Cassie didn't deny it. Instead, she acknowledged her involvement, explaining, "Yes, I participated, because I believed I had to." The jury saw a woman taking responsibility, not only for what happened to her but also for the choices she made under pressure. Her honesty likely made her appear even more credible. When the defense brought up Cassie's past relationships with Michael B. Jordan and Kid Cudi during her time away from Diddy, the prosecution objected. The judge appeared to agree that those details had no relevance to the main charges. This moment highlighted the increasingly desperate tactics of Diddy's legal team. Rather than presenting a coherent defense, they seemed to be stirring up distractions and relying on tabloid-style drama. Outside the courtroom, Diddy's decisions are also facing scrutiny. In 2023, former attorney Benjamin Brafman reportedly advised him to settle with Cassie for $10 million. Instead, Diddy paid $30 million, a move legal experts now interpret as a sign of panic, an attempt to contain a growing crisis. Brafman resigned soon afterward. Meanwhile, sources suggest internal conflict among Diddy's current legal team, with some pushing for a plea deal and others wanting to continue the fight. Gandil claims Diddy repeatedly ignored advice to settle or cooperate with federal investigators. In a widely circulated interview, Deal stated bluntly, he thinks he's smarter than the feds. He's not. The court is watching events unravel, and the jury is observing a man once seen as in control now making risky and erratic decisions. Deal's testimony is offering crucial context, and the image of Diddy as a misunderstood genius is quickly unraveling into something far less flattering. A growing concern in the trial is the list of individuals who might be called to testify: friends, collaborators, former employees, all with first-hand knowledge of Diddy's inner world. Some are celebrities. Others worked behind the scenes. But all of them were close enough to know what was really going on. Prosecutors are reportedly preparing to bring several of these individuals to court. According to multiple court reporters, Gandil's revelations have opened new avenues for the prosecution. He has identified people he saw at the so-called freak-off parties, artists he claims were groomed, and staff who allegedly turned a blind eye. Those who have followed Deal's interviews over the years won't find these claims surprising. But with federal prosecutors now examining them seriously, what once sounded like conspiracy theory is starting to look like a roadmap for criminal charges. Sources say subpoenas have already been prepared for several former Bad Boy employees. There's talk that former members of Danity Kane might testify, especially Dawn Richard and Aubrey O'Day, both of whom have publicly accused Diddy of abuse or toxic manipulation. If either steps up to the stand, it could shatter the defense's claim that Cassie was just a lone, heartbroken lover. Then there's Diddy's sons, Christian and Justin Combs. Christian was reportedly involved in a yacht incident leading to a 2024 sexual assault lawsuit. Justin was detained during the September 2024 raid on Diddy's mansion. Although no charges have been filed, the possibility of them being questioned under oath could be disastrous for Diddy. Deal has hinted in past interviews that the family's involvement runs deeper than anyone thought, blurring the lines between Diddy's business empire and his personal life. But the most concerning figure reportedly under scrutiny by prosecutors is Janice Combs, Diddy's mother. Gandil has made explosive claims about Janice's alleged role in enabling certain behaviors, even alleging she once operated a brothel disguised as a modeling agency. If prosecutors verify any of this, the case could shift from an individual accusation to a multi-generational criminal enterprise, a full RICO case. Everyone's wondering, if Deal's testimony holds weight, how many others will come forward, and how far will the court go to expose this network? As one courtroom expert said, this isn't about one man anymore, it's about a whole system built on power, fear, and silence. And that system is starting to break. Sean Diddy Combs built one of the most powerful music empires over the last 3 decades, Bad Boy Records, Sean John, Cyrock Vodka, Revolt TV. His name was a symbol of wealth, influence, and charm. But now, that empire is falling apart, with its downfall on full display in a federal courtroom. For years, Diddy seemed untouchable. Accusations surfaced but disappeared, lawsuits were quietly settled, and people whispered but never spoke out. Now, we understand why. Over 60 lawsuits filed since 2023 reveal that silence was often bought, forced, or inspired by fear. That silence has finally been shattered. Gan Deal's warnings, once dismissed as bitterness, are now central to prosecutors' portrayal of a calculated, decades-long abuse of power. And Deal may not be the only one. More witnesses are expected. More documents are being revealed. The payoffs, bribes, and surveillance, all are now part of the evidence. Still, Diddy's defense insists he's being targeted because of his fame, but that defense is losing ground. With a former bodyguard turned whistleblower, surveillance footage showing abuse, and corroborating testimonies from alleged victims, celebrity status no longer shields, it implicates. What's at risk is bigger than Diddy's freedom. It's the culture he stood for. A culture where power let you control not just the story, but the people around you, the ones you claim to love, paid, and silenced. Now, those people are speaking up. The jury is paying attention. And Diddy, once the mastermind behind every scene, no longer controls the narrative. Whether he's found guilty on all counts or not, one thing is certain: the man formerly known as Puff Daddy, then P. Diddy, then Love, has lost what he valued most: control over his image. And no rebranding can fix what's unraveling, moment by moment, in a courtroom where his secrets are exposed by those who once protected him.